It unfolded quietly, far from cameras and public gatherings, in a province already exhausted by the constant loss of its leaders. In one instant, a man committed to nourishing communities and standing up for farmers was living his daily life. In the next, his life was violently ended, shot during an armed robbery. His voice was not silenced by argument or failure, but by a bullet. The death of Maneni Skane is more than another entry in South Africa's crime statistics. It serves as a warning, and for many within the KwaZulu-Natal farming community, it feels like yet another boundary has been crossed. Bonjeni Skane, the KwaZulu-Natal chairperson of the African Farmers Association of South Africa and a respected businessman, was fatally shot during an armed robbery in the Bona area of Hilton. When the news first emerged, information was unclear, the familiar confusion that follows sudden and violent loss. What soon became undeniable, however, was that the country had lost another community leader, someone deeply involved in rural development, food security, and the ongoing fight to empower black farmers. According to details obtained from a police source, Scott's vehicle was later discovered abandoned in the Isibombini area toward KwaShonge. That single fact paints a disturbing picture. An armed robbery, a hijacking, a leader attacked and discarded. Questions surfaced immediately. Was he being followed? Was the crime random, or carefully planned? And why does leadership in South Africa so often appear to come at the cost of one's life? To those who knew Bonjeni Scott, he represented far more than a position or organizational title. He was a visible and outspoken defender of black farmers in an agricultural sector that remains deeply unequal and frequently unwelcoming to new and emerging producers. He consistently raised the alarm about stock theft, a crime that silently destroys rural livelihoods and seldom receives sustained national focus. He argued for practical, workable solutions rather than empty rhetoric, knowing that a farmer who loses livestock today may never recover tomorrow. Skane was also deeply involved in advancing agricultural development throughout KwaZulu-Natal, working to close the gap between small-scale farmers and government policy. He believed farming was not solely about land ownership, but about functioning systems, market access, safety, veterinary services, infrastructure, and clear policy direction. In meetings and engagements, he earned a reputation for arriving prepared, offering solutions rather than simply voicing complaints. Among the matters closest to his heart were discussions around cannabis cultivation and its potential to uplift rural economies if regulated properly and implemented inclusively. He recognized that for many rural communities, especially those historically excluded from mainstream agriculture, new crops could open doors to economic opportunity. At the same time, he warned that without clear frameworks, those previously marginalized would once again be pushed aside. Equally critical to him was the implementation of a functional animal identification system. To outsiders, this may sound minor or overly technical. To farmers, it is a matter of survival. Without identification, stock theft flourishes. Without traceability, prosecutions collapse. Scott raised this concern repeatedly, urging authorities to move beyond promises and introduce systems capable of protecting farmers' assets and livelihoods. His killing has therefore sent shockwaves through the agricultural sector, particularly among black farmers who regarded him as both a defender and a spokesperson. Many are now confronting an unsettling question. If someone as well-known and influential as Scott could be killed so openly, what protection exists for ordinary farmers? Yamini Mayor Chris Poppers responded forcefully to the killing, describing Scott Kane as a pillar within the farming community, a guide to emerging farmers, and a champion of rural development across the province. Those remarks were not symbolic. They reflected the lived experience of those who worked alongside Skane, who knew him as someone invested in people, not just policy. His commitment to empowering farmers and promoting inclusive agricultural growth earned him widespread respect. Pepper said Scott's death represents a devastating loss for his family, AFISA, the agricultural sector, and the country as a whole. Beyond expressions of grief, Papes called for action, urging law enforcement to conduct a swift and thorough investigation so that those responsible are arrested and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. In a nation where high-profile killings often fade into unresolved case files, that demand carries significant urgency. This senseless act, Popper said, is another reminder of South Africa's intolerable levels of violent crime. His words echo the frustration felt in communities where farmers, business owners, activists, and local leaders live under constant threat simply for contributing to society. Scott's killing lies at the intersection of several national crises: violent crime, rural insecurity, economic inequality, and the vulnerability of leadership. Farmers, particularly those outside large commercial operations, already struggle with climate shocks, rising costs, limited financing, and bureaucratic obstacles. When violent crime is added to those pressures, the burden becomes overwhelming. What makes this case especially tragic is that Skane was not distant from the people he served. He was visible. He was accessible. He traveled. He engaged directly with communities. Those same qualities that made him effective may also have exposed him to danger. As news of his death spread, tributes flowed in from across the agricultural sector. Many remembered his mentorship of young farmers, his ability to explain complex policies in simple terms, and his skill in challenging officials without destroying working relationships. Others spoke of his efforts to unite farmers across racial and political divides, emphasizing that food security is a shared national responsibility. Yet beneath these tributes lies a quiet, persistent fear. Farmers are questioning whether advocacy now places targets on their backs, whether speaking out about crime, corruption, or policy failure makes them vulnerable, and whether the state is doing enough to protect those who feed the nation. Popper's addressed this concern directly, stating that government at every level must prioritize the safety of those who feed, employ, and build the country. His statement resonates far beyond Yangini municipality. Across South Africa, rural communities often feel ignored until tragedy strikes. Police response times are slow, resources are limited, investigations drag on, and communities are left to grieve and adapt alone. The discovery of Scott's abandoned vehicle also raises alarms about organized criminal networks. Hijackings linked to violent robberies have grown increasingly complex, involving multiple suspects, stolen vehicles, and rapid escapes. Solving such crimes requires more than reactive policing. It demands intelligence-driven operations, coordination, and trust between communities and law enforcement. For the FAA, the loss is deeply felt. As an organization representing black farmers, it has long fought for recognition, support, and transformation within agriculture. Losing its provincial chairperson under such violent circumstances is both a leadership setback and a psychological blow. The organization and its members must now continue their work while navigating grief and fear. For Scott Kane's family, the loss cannot be measured. Beyond public statements and political reactions lies a family forced to face life without a husband, father, mentor, and provider. Their pain is deeply personal and enduring, often eclipsed by headlines and sound bites. The larger question confronting South Africa is whether killings like this will finally prompt decisive action or simply blend into the daily rhythm of violence. Each murdered community leader erodes trust further, trust in safety, trust in justice, and trust in the belief that service and hard work will be rewarded rather than punished. Popper said the Yangini municipality stands in solidarity with AFA and the broader agricultural community and will continue advocating for the safety of all residents. But solidarity must be matched with sustained pressure on law enforcement, policymakers, and national leaders to treat rural crime with the seriousness it demands. Because this is not only about one man or one robbery. It is about the conditions created when violent crime is allowed to persist unchecked. It is about the message sent to those who choose to lead, build, and empower others. And it is about whether South Africa can protect the people working every day to secure its future. Benjini Skane's legacy is defined not by how he died, but by how he lived, by the farmers he guided, the policies he challenged, and the communities he believed in. Yet his death demands reflection, one that cannot be delayed or ignored. As investigations continue, the farming community waits for answers, for arrests, for justice, and for reassurance that leadership and service are not crimes punished by death. Until then, his killing remains a stark reminder. In South Africa today, even those who feed the nation are not safe.